Honored to introduce Jean-Philbert Nisigmana, who's currently the Minister of Youth of ICT. The Minister of Youth and ICT for the country of Rwanda.
You went to the wrong side.
I did? Really?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I have to move. Georgie Vishadze, who runs the Innovation and Development Foundation and has done incredible work empowering people through technology in Eastern Europe. Cab Morris, who's the blockchain strategy lead for my home state, Illinois. Laurent Lamothe, who's the former Prime Minister of Haiti. And Rachel Hout, who's the Managing Director of 1776. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And everybody, I think, has come from out of town to be here, and we appreciate it. And I think the first question is for Jean. I think it's incredible that Rwanda has emerged as a technology hub in Africa. And if you could talk about some of the work that you've been doing that you're excited about, and also how you see blockchain fitting in.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Well, I have one bad news, but three good news. So the bad news is I'm not an expert on blockchain. So if you hope to learn one thing or two from me, I'm so sorry about that. But the good news, the first good news is I don't need to be an expert on blockchain to understand the benefit of blockchain and be able to find out ways it can help my people in Rwanda and also the bigger market of Africa. So the second good news is I come from Rwanda. Rwanda, so many people know Rwanda as the home of the last few hundred gorillas, as the place that produced one of the best coffees and best teas in the world. But very few people know Rwanda as the rising tech hub in Africa. The country with zero tolerance to corruption, the country where you can register your business in less than 3 hours, and one of the fastest growing economies in the world. I know many companies here are startup companies, and the third good news this morning is Rwanda is a startup nation as well. So it's a country that loves disruption, embraces disruptors. It's a country with no legacy infrastructure, no legacy laws that can hamper progress like blockchain and other technologies of the fourth industrial revolution. And it's a country that welcomes geeks. So I'm not an investor. I'm not a VC investor, but I'm an investor anyway. I'm the only minister in charge of both youth and technology in the world. So I want to invite you, all of you, to come and do business with us.
Thank you. And Laurent, the former Prime Minister of Haiti, I think the story of how you discovered blockchain technology is super fascinating. So if you could share that with everybody.
After the earthquake of Haiti that killed 250,000 people, injured 500,000, we had 56,000 homes destroyed, and basically in Haiti we have one office that's the registrar's office for all land titles, all property titles, car tags. Everything was housed in one single building. Well, the first public building that was knocked down in the earthquake was that very building. So we lost everything that we had, and we had no backup. So that's where we started. That's from the standpoint that we started, running the country, and it was a huge challenge, to say the least. And we had to come up with creative ideas how to solve that particular problem. So when I heard of the blockchain technology and land titles and the security that it provides, the transparency it provides, the fact that the blockchain is a game changer, it really rang a bell and made me want to discover, what we can do more with that technology. So ever since then, we started a process in Haiti to putting it together. And I resigned 2 years ago. So I went into the space of investing in the technology, and now we are building one of the world's first platform in terms of digital governance and certainly mobile money verification platforms on the blockchain and remittance platform. I think it's one of the world's first platform that combines the two. So, very excited about the technology, very excited about the potential that it has, especially for, emerging countries that can leapfrog into the first world via the technology. So, very excited to be here.
Thank you. And Rachel, I think it's really interesting what you're doing with 1776 in terms of blockchain, and also in your previous role as Chief Digital Officer to the City of New York, working with Mayor Bloomberg, the perspective you have in terms of how blockchain can be transformative globally. If you could kind of share some of your thoughts.
Absolutely. So thank you for having me. A couple of things that are really exciting to us right now at 1776. So first, we recently announced our partnership, and I believe we are partnering via that initiative together with the Smart Dubai office and the incredible initiatives that Dubai is undertaking to modernize their government. They've publicly said they want to put all government transactions on blockchain by 2020. And 1776 will be kicking off a blockchain challenge with startups, investors, and the government of Dubai on May 30th. So very soon, where we're very excited to be bringing that to realization. And 1776, for folks who don't know, brings together government, industry, and startups to solve complex challenges impacting critical issues. From my time at the City of New York, where I was Chief Digital Officer for 3 years under Mayor Bloomberg, if you start to think about the importance of transactions in service, it's really inspiring and exciting to consider the potential of blockchain in government. So one of my obsessions was 311. If you're not from New York City, 311 is our customer service platform for how we process all of the questions, complaints, praise, it does happen sometimes, that people have to their local government. And what's amazing is that it's such an incredible opportunity to consider blockchain and these distributed ledgers because of the security and because of the types of transactions that the city supports. So just to give an example of that, after emergency services, after emergency response, for example, fire, police, et cetera, and emergency preparedness, the critical support of government is in the form of services. And it's surprising to me that it's only 30% of 311 requests require some kind of transaction, but that represents millions and millions of transactions every year. And there's a 200 to 300 person, because they ramp it up when needed, full-time customer support team answering phones every day. Just earlier this week, one of the city's council members, Ben Kalos, who's a coder himself, proposed that all city services be run through an API. So if we think about making those services API-enabled, combining that with blockchain technology, and if you look at the vast range of things that the City of New York does, from water bills to child protective services to parking fines, it's really exciting to consider what's possible.
That's fantastic. And Georgie, you're such an inspirational person. You've had a whole career of using technology to transform society and empower people in Eastern Europe, and you've received numerous awards, including from the United Nations. And you're leading the pack in blockchain in terms of being one of the first movers implementing a project in Ukraine. If you could speak more about that.
Thank you very much. I'm George from Georgia. It's easier to remember. And this Georgia is not US Georgia, it's European Georgia. Number one thing that, I was Deputy Minister of Justice when we used all these e-technologies in Georgia. And for example, we have services like Just Drive. You know McDonald's drive-thru, yes? In Georgia, you can drive by car and you can pick up your passport in 30 seconds from your car, like McDonald's drive-thru, but instead of hamburgers, you're getting official documents. Or we have Just Cafe, where you are ordering to the waiter salad, steak, passport, company registration, property registration, and while you finish your lunch or dinner, you are getting the same bill where you have a list of all services, coffee, stake, solid, I don't know, company registration, price, marriage registration, everything can be done there. So that's what we are doing. And now we found out the technology of blockchain, and it really changed many things around us. First and most important, from the morning today, we're discussing blockchain as a decentralized technology. That's not right. The blockchain is not decentralization. Blockchain is distributed like a mechanism. And that's very important to understand because we have plenty of decentralized businesses today. Telecom business, government, governance in terms of local government and so on. Completely different thing is the distributed model. What is the blockchain? Blockchain is the mechanism, a tool, how to record the DNA of all transactions. And that's very important to understand. And it is recorded in many different places, so nobody can manipulate, nobody can monopolize it, and it is really distributed because of that. The third thing is that, yes, we already used blockchain technology, and we have one of the exceptional, let's say, use cases in Ukraine where we developed e-auctions 3.0. What it means, when government is selling something, leasing something for privatization or for advertisement, everything is done on a blockchain-based auction system, and now we're integrating in all different parts. And now also we're working to use blockchain in notary system, title record, healthcare, tax administration, I know, like everything. For example, we designed the Tax and Customs Administration in Ukraine based on a blockchain system where instead of 60,000 employees, there will be just 60 employees. So you will not need any more. And the very important point is that on the magazine which were distributed today, there were like list of use cases, 10 different cases, and one of them was Internet of Things, and Cisco CEO is saying that it is market like something like 20 trillions, which will emerge in future. I think if we will think about the huge market and opportunity, which is just now emerging from the governance sector, it will be hundreds of trillions, which can be the profit of the businesses because instead of bureaucrats, corrupt people, instead of, I don't know, different agencies where we're like coming, begging for services, we will have distributed blockchain-based mechanisms through which we will move to the peer-to-peer contract. So it means that we will not need ministers, departments, services, all these expenditures, which is really huge headache for us. Just on my way to this conference, we were discussing that, for example, if you want to establish some company and want to buy some property, the biggest problem today is not to get money for that, because sometimes if you are a startup, you can find money for that. But the huge headache is starting when you are starting like registering company, buying registering your title about your property, and it is several months. And in an innovative world, it's let's say really big, problem and obstacle for our future development. So future is in front of us. Who will be the first mover in terms of countries? There will be more. There will be most, let's say, successful. And I think very important thing also with blockchain is that, in fact, blockchain creates the opportunity, same kind of opportunity for developing and developed countries, for US and Rwanda, for Georgia and Germany, and for Dubai and for, I don't know, for example, for Tallinn or some other city. So this is really something which creates similar opportunity for each of us. So if you are interested in all the topics, ready to discuss in details, everything. Thank you.
Thank you. And Cav Morris from my home state of Illinois that's bankrupt and has lots of problems. You're the blockchain strategy lead, and we talked a little bit about a lot of the innovation happening in Chicago, and if you could kind of let us know how you're a government employee and how you carved out this role for yourself and the potential you see in Illinois to help solve a lot of our problems.
Yep, so I want to thank everyone for having me here. It's just a great event to see, and it's really interesting topics. But just to kind of give a little bit of background of what my role is and then what we're trying to do as a state. I think it was December, we announced the Illinois Blockchain Initiative, which was really our state's kind of coming out party for what we really think was, 6 to 8 months before that worth of work. So we really see blockchain as, very much as we've heard in a lot of other these from a lot of other these panelists, is it's a really kind of transformative technology when you apply it to what is a trusted institution in our modern society. So I think really the best way to describe what we're trying to do is really think through like what does blockchain mean for government, and what role should government play in the development of these technologies. And we really came down to 3 kind of key points that have really driven our strategy as a state. The first one being is that I think, as Georgi mentioned, in a distributed economy, what is the role of government? What is the role of regulators? How do we adjust and think about, the way we govern these systems that we do currently? We think that really, as a state, we really think that has to transform. It has to change. It has to be. It doesn't mean government isn't there, but I think it has to be a fundamentally different role. And I think a lot of that will come in the matter of, how do we participate in, launching code, like identity as a service that the financial services industry could use. So I think, and then also kind of the second 2 points of our strategy are, one, we really want Chicago, more broadly Illinois, to be a great place for blockchain entrepreneurs and major enterprises to come and feel really comfortable but also supported. We want to create in a really kind of great collaborative atmosphere where, blockchain, we really believe is a foundational technology. And we want enterprises to benefit, and we want startups to benefit as well. And then kind of the third part, which we've really been focused on since our announcement of the Illinois Blockchain Initiative, is how can we use blockchain technology within government to make it a bit more customized, a bit more tailored to actual citizens' needs. So I think a big component of that is identity. A lot of what government does on a day-to-day basis is, to be frank, it's a lot of paper pushing for identity. So that's really been our approach. We're in the process of rolling out five pilots right now. One of them is, as we've heard here today, is land title. We're hopefully looking to execute an actual transaction legally in the next month or so with our Cook County Recorder of Deeds. We're also doing an academic credentialing project with our University of Illinois, and then IC3, Andrew Miller and his team there. We're also, the other 3 pilots, one of them's a health provider directory that insurance companies use to validate the validity of whether their doctor is actually in network or out of network. A compliance marketplace for renewable energy credits. And then the last one, which I'm really excited about, is our vital record system. So we're trying to take a digital identity and really start it from that first birth event. Blockchain is an event-based record system, and what better way to get identity on a blockchain than by the first initial birth event. So that's kind of an overview of what we're trying to do. It's broad, ambitious, but we're really excited about it, and we want to collaborate with as many people as we can.
Thank you. And we're running out of time, so just very quickly, some closing thoughts. And I think a question that I'm curious about as well is, all of you have unique entrepreneurial experience and experience working in cities and countries, and what can be done to best support these ecosystems to help educate and drive innovation in blockchain, and from your point of view, and not necessarily what can be done, but what have you seen that has been done?
So I'm happy to kick off, and I'm, first of all, very inspired by what everyone's been saying here. I think first, looking at the examples of Dubai, the examples of Chicago, is a great place to start. I think one of the challenges is first being informed. So at 1776, one of the core classes and methodologies that we teach to our startups is something called regulatory hacking. So sort of a combination of growth hacking in a regulatory environment. And it's something that, unfortunately, a lot of traditional investors and traditional startup methodologies that are out there don't take into account, because they're focused more on the low-hanging fruit that are a lot that are less regulated, simply. So we say that number one is first getting everyone to the table to have conversations like this one, because there is that common thread of this will create efficiency and this will spur the economy by creating future jobs. So jobs for the future economy, for the digital economy. So I think that's number one. And just to give an example of what we're doing in Dubai, which could dovetail with this, is we're partnering with Dubai in the Dubai 10X initiative, which is including the blockchain innovations, looking at how they can transform and innovate across every possible index. And one of the first ways we've done that is by convening, I believe it was between 30 and 40 ministers from across the government who are in a regulatory position in a single meeting, and identifying 5 to 10 startups who would come before them and say, I am ready to start business in Dubai, and this is what's holding me back, and these are the regulations that need to change, and identifying specific achievable steps that they can change to move forward. So I think approaches like that and government working with the private sector and public-private partnerships are a great place to start.
Thank you. And Laurent and Jean, I understand you two are working together on some things?
Yes, my company has been working in Rwanda, and we provide verification on different areas of the international traffic, especially digital governance. So we've been working, and we work in 14 other countries, providing verification on transactions. So, and those are the transactions now that we're going to put, we're going to add some platforms, which is the remittance space, which is a huge space, as you know, in developing countries. The amounts, it's billions of dollars, over $400 billion being transferred in and out. And there is very few, so that's a natural area for the blockchain space. And we're building right now this, one-of-a-kind platform for verification of mobile money transaction. Right now, we process about 600,000 transactions per second. And we're gonna, basically migrate that on the blockchain to have, basically a verification platform for each mobile money transaction. And at the very core of it, build a digital credit bureau based on mobile money transaction to be able to provide nano credit loans to the very, to the poorest of the poor. To have and to build credit history to a digital credit bureau. So it's a lot of exciting things happening, and very meaningful things to at the end do good and help change the world through blockchain.
Well, that's amazing. And I think we're out of time, but really quickly, if the rest of you have any closing thoughts.
Yeah, I think there is quite a interesting environment now in the world. Like, many people are speaking about blockchain. Really many companies are saying that they are doing something on a blockchain. But I think the key point here is that we need to identify which project is real blockchain project and which project is project which means some kind of monopolization of some system under blockchain, let's say, cover. So, because quite often it happens in many countries, and I have seen many projects, which means that there is no any market created, there is no any competition, there is just monopolistic blockchain system. My recommendation to the companies will be that that will not work in long term. So maybe you have investors today, but tomorrow you will fail, because everybody will understand that that's some fake blockchain system which will not work. So that's most important, to focus ourselves that each of us, each of the companies who are here, we need to understand that we are not competitors to each other. We are like partners to each other, because if we open this market, there will be huge share for each of us. So we need to understand that we need to cooperate, first of all. We need to do the real, let's say, use cases, first of all. And then there will be trillions and hundreds of trillions of dollars of market, which will be opened for each of us and for each of these first comers and first movers who are in this audience. And the last point from my side will be that we are also part of Illinois initiative, and really good thing which CAB is doing there and others are doing there also. We're part of initiative in Georgia and Ukraine and in some other countries also. I have been in Dubai, very tremendous work which is done. But I really propose you to come to Ukraine. Why? Because first of all, this is number 3 country with IT capacity in the world, number 2 in IT outsourcing in the world, and fastest growing sector in blockchain, IT, let's say personal, IT human capacity, which is really needed for this kind of solutions. So if you have an interest in that, let's discuss that and let's start real changes and not just the fake projects. Thank you.
Well, when it comes to growing the cake that George is talking about, I think one critical factor is to look at both supply and demand. I think in terms of supply, we are starting to get good. There are so many good companies with different products, but on the demand side, the different sectors that we're talking about, whether it is tax administration, healthcare, transport, land registration, I think the decision makers, especially in the developing countries, have not yet put their mind around the power of blockchain and how to engage you guys. So I think these kind of events that we're having here should happen in Africa, should happen in many different places where you need to raise the basic awareness and get people to a point where they can feel comfortable engaging with the industry and trying out these solutions. So thank you, Consensus, and I welcome Ethereum in Rwanda sometime.
A small hit about demand. So if, for example, Steve Jobs thought that, like we're thinking that if there is no demand, I will not invent something, of course we would not invent anything which is very common for us and we have in a pocket now. So I think that supply will create a demand as well. Innovation will create a demand in this case, and there will be huge demand in several years in blockchain.
Thank you. So Cab, any final comments before we all go to Ukraine?
Well, I'll make the kind of final shameless pitch here. Chicago is a great place. There's a lot of really...
Go to Chicago. That's
Okay,
a
with
really
that,
nice place.
thank you, everybody. Thank you.